Hello friends, welcome to my channel Together with Abhi. In this video, we are going to practically see Instance and Elastic Block Store in action. We are going to take a look at the temporary nature of Instance Store and the persistence nature of Elastic Block Store. We will also cover a few other concepts in practical like termination protection. We will also see whether we can use an already existing RDP file to connect to a Windows machine. We will mess up a few things just to understand what we are doing incorrectly, how can we fix them. This is just a different way of learning. Okay, so let's get started. We will get going to the AWS management console first. We will go to services, we will select EC2, and the first thing that we are going to do is launch an instance. Okay, so as you can see, there is no running instances as of now. We will select free tier only and we will filter on Windows. So we are going to launch a Windows machine. Just let's select it, general purpose, let's do it. So first thing that we have to do is, as you can see, we discussed last time about bootstrapping, which we can do in the user data, but we are going to enable protection, termination protection. So we are going to tick this box. We are going to add storage. Let's add storage. So we are going to add a volume type as root, general purpose SSD. Let's add tags. Let's name it. It is very important to add the name tag, otherwise you are not going to actually spot your instance. So let's name it Windows Instance Check. So we are going to check whether the Windows instance that we have added, whether the instance store would be able to persist our data or not. We are just going to select a Windows security group. You can see it is an RDP connection, which is going to get established to connect to this instance. We will just review the information. Again, RDP TCP 3389 protocol for all the world, for entire world. We are going to choose an existing key pair, Windows key pair that we created in the last video. We acknowledge having this key, the PEM file, we already have it. So the instance has been launched. It should be up and running in some time. Please note about the estimated charges. We already have set a billing alert also. So if in case our billing goes above a threshold, we should be notified of it. So it is in the pending state as of now. Meanwhile, what we will do is, as soon as it gets up and running, first thing that we are going to check is we enable the termination protection here. What it means, we should not be able to terminate this instance at all, right? That is what it means for enabling a termination protection. So we are going to first check that. Thereafter, we are going to disable this protection, and then we are going to see whether this can be terminated or not. So let's go to actions. If you go to the instance state, you will see terminate. Okay, but this yes terminate button, it has been disabled. Why? Because we have enabled the protection on termination of this machine. How you can edit it? You can go to instance settings and change termination protection. You can disable this. Now you should be able to enable that button for termination. Okay, so now you should be able to terminate it. Now let's connect to this machine. We are going to get the password. We are going to choose the file, the PEM file that we already have, Windows key pair, decrypt the password. Let's copy this password at a safe place because we are going to need it to connect to this machine. The administrator is the username. Let's close it and let's try to utilize it. We are going to firstly connect with the RDP file that we already had. Okay, instead of downloading a new remote desktop file, we are just going to utilize the file that we already had. So let's spot it where we have stored. Yes, it is here. So if we try to connect it, you will see that it is not going to get connected. Why? Because this RDP file is mapped to an instance, and now we are launching a completely new instance. So that is why we need a completely new RDP file. So what we are going to do, we are going to download this RDP file again. Let's delete this. Let's create and download a new RDP file and use that file to connect to this Windows instance. So we'll go to connect, download remote desktop file. We have this file, we already have the password, we don't need it again. So let's close it. Let's double click on this or open it. Certificate is okay for us. Let's give the password. Let's paste the password and we will continue. So we should be able to launch the Windows instance. We are expecting that we will be creating an instance store backed up machine here. Okay. So the thing that we are going to do is we are going to create a new folder in one of the drives. We will create a file, a test file, and the expectation is this file should not persist on this machine on stopping of the server. So we'll just quickly create this folder in a file. Okay, let's name it my instance folder. Let's name the file test. Let's just have some raw data within this. So we'll quickly do that. Let's just have 1, 2, 3, and let's save it. Okay. Now we are going to stop this machine. Okay, so we are going to go back to the console, go to actions, instance state, and we are going to stop it. So as soon as it gets stopped, it says ephemeral storage of your instances will be lost. So that is the expectation. So when we are going to stop it and restart this machine, we will go and see whether the folder that we have created, does it still exist or not. Okay, so it takes some time to stop. Let's go and start it again. Instance state, start, and yes, start. We can again create a new RDP file, or we can have the same RDP file to connect it. Let's just for the sake of doing it, just for the sake of showing it, I'm just downloading it again, opening it, giving the same password that we already have, and the username remains same, so we are able to connect it. Now the expectation is, if in case it is an instance store backed machine, the file should not exist anymore. Okay, so let's check that. We go to File Explorer, the file still exists. This is not an expected behavior. So what are we doing wrong? We can even go to the actual place in the PC. You see, we will have the folder, my instance folder, and we have the file as well. So what did we do wrong? Let's go back to the management console and see where are we doing something incorrect. So you see here, if in case you go to the details, the root device type is EBS. It was never instance store. Okay. As a matter of fact, when we even selected, it says general provision SSD, which is a type of EBS. So we should have noted that we are not using instance store at all. So how can we launch an instance which is backed by an instance store? For that, you will have to go. So you see everywhere it is written root device type EBS. We never noticed it. So I just carried out this exercise so you actually notice this thing whenever you are selecting an AMI, whether you are using a root device type as EBS or instance store. So in the free tier, it is usually not seen that you would find a root device type as EBS. You will usually have to go to a community AMIs. Within that, you have to filter on instance type. And now you can see that the root device type is instance store. Okay. This is usually not available on free tier. So and what we can do is we can choose an operating system of our type as well. So let's just quick start. We can just see, it is not easy to locate instance type as the root device type as instance store. So you usually have to really figure out. So if in case you are selecting, just be very circumspective of what you are selecting. That's the only point that I want to emphasize here. So let's select this. We will select an Amazon Linux machine. We will filter on instance store. So we are going to now launch a machine, a Linux machine of type instance store, which has an instance. And also notice, you are not able to have it in a free tier, and is in the family memory optimized. Okay, so please note this is going to incur you some cost. Okay, now let's add storage, and please note the volume type. It is instance store now. Earlier it used to be root, or volume type is SSD here, but for EBS it used to be three options: magnetic, general, or else provision. Now we are going to name it Linux instance. Okay, so we are going to check whether on this machine where we have an instance store as the volume, whether we are able to persist the data that we are going to create or not. Let's configure a security group. Also note, if in case you select a Windows security group on a Linux machine, it is going to throw you a warning because you will not be able to connect. It only opens port 20. It requires a port 22 to be open for establishing SSH. So better to use a Linux security group. So we have everything set up. Instance configuration is not eligible for the free tier. As I mentioned to you, it is in the memory optimized family, and R3.large is not free tier. We have a warning for security group. That's okay because we are opening it for the whole world. Let's use an existing key pair, Linux key pair we are going to use. We acknowledge having the private file, PEM file, and now let's launch the instance. It is going to take some time. It is going to go to a pending state, and shortly it will be in a running state. Meanwhile, once it comes to a running state, we will go to the terminal. We are going to issue a command, an SSH command, using the username EC2-user and Linux key pair. Okay, so as soon as you are going to give this command with the DNS name, and as you can see, you are able to launch the instance. The Linux instance backed with an instance store instead of EBS has been launched. Now let's create a folder here as well, and we are going to create a quick file. So make directory test mkdir cd test, and here we are going to touch a test file. So now let's exit it. Let's close it. Now we are going to stop this instance. So we will go to Linux instance store actions instance type, and you can see there is no stop. It is not disenabled. Okay, it only has reboot and a terminate option. So reboot, as I told you, in case of instance store, even if you reboot, you should be able to have your data, but in case of terminate, it is going to kill your data forever. Stop, earlier it used to be provided, now they have disabled it. Why? Because in case of stop, you are going to lose your data, and people usually were not expecting this kind of a behavior. They would inadvertently click this button and would lose their data. So that is why they have now disabled the stop button. Okay, so I hope it is very clear to you. If in case you have an instance store backed machine, you are not going to be able to stop it because you are going to lose the data. But in case of an EBS backed instance, you will be able to stop and start the machine. So let's terminate it. I hope this has been useful to you. If you did like my video, please like it, share it, comment, and do subscribe to my channel. Thanks for your time. Thank you.